Good evening. Tonight is Monday, September 18th, 2023, and I'm delighted that you're with us. We'll be talking about Oklahoma's governor, Oklahoma's superintendent of public instruction. We'll be talking about the former failed guy and also a look ahead at some really exciting things that we have coming up here at the Oklahoma Democratic Party. All that and more on tonight's Hamilton Report. Well, I have missed spending time with you the last couple of Mondays. 2 weeks ago, it was probably Labor Day. And this time last week, I was about halfway between Oklahoma City and Chicago. We did a walkthrough of where the convention will be held next year, the DNC National Convention, when we will renominate President Biden and Vice President Harris. It's really exciting. The hotel is very convenient to everything downtown Chicago. Great transportation that they will have for our delegates. And it's really going to be a wonderful time. So if you are considering running to be a delegate in the 2024 National Convention, and I hope that you will, begin saving your money now because it's pretty costly. But the party will show you ways that you can legally raise funds to help defray the costs. So that's something that I'm really excited about. And it was a great opportunity to meet with our colleagues from every other state in the nation. And we're making plans to work together on some things and then some special events beyond that. So it's going to be a great time. And you can feel the excitement when you walk into the arena. It's a very special place. And it's going to be a good time. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's happening in less than a year. We are actually now 11 months away from the 2024 presidential convention. Unbelievable, isn't it? But we have two special elections coming up. One is in Lawton and one is in Edmond. Those are seats that have been vacated. And we have two candidates running for a Senate district seat in Lawton, and then two candidates as well for the position in Edmond, the House of Representatives seat. So it's exciting that we're already getting a jump on things. And what we do know is that Democrats can do very, very well and actually flip seats in special elections if we turn out. And that's going to be the critical key. And you'll be hearing a lot more about that in the months to come. I hope that as we go through this evening, you'll feel free to ask questions or make comments, and we will address those as we go throughout this broadcast tonight. But I want to talk first about the special session that the governor has forced upon the House and the Senate. They're calling a special session to talk about cutting income taxes. Now, while that sounds good, people are always enjoy hearing about income tax cuts. What is not such a good thing when you realize that the average everyday working Oklahoman, this income tax cut would amount to less than $300 a year. And every bit counts. And I firmly believe that $300 is $300. But at what cost? We're giving tax breaks to the richest by a large margin, and they will be affected positively more than the rest of us. But it goes beyond just the tax cuts that I'm concerned about. The governor continues to talk about this enormous bankroll that we have, this savings account, the largest in the state's history. It's billions and billions of dollars. But that's nothing to brag about, that we have all this money socked away when we have hungry people, when we have people with no place to call home, when we have children, and 25% of Oklahoma's children live at or below the national poverty level. That means a whole bunch of kids go to bed every night not knowing when they'll eat again. So we have all this savings account, and now he's talking about doing away with perhaps income tax altogether, I guess, because that's what his friends in Texas and Florida have done. This is not the time to do that. We know historically when there are big tax cuts, the economy changes, and then as a result, then we wind up in negative territory again. And it's unconscionable to me that this man considers himself a leader when in fact he's hurting the very people who need the help the most. And so I have real reservations about this special session. And if you follow any legislators in Oklahoma on social media, you'll see that many of them are opposed to this as well. But they have an obligation to go back into special session. I predict it won't last long and that the governor will not get what he's asking for. At least that's my hope. But let's look at Oklahoma City for a moment. You know, the mayor of Oklahoma City had a big conference last week to announce this new $900 million arena. Now, 900 million sounds better than a billion, but you and I both know that there will be cost overruns and it will be well in excess of $1 billion by the time the thing is actually built. But do we really need it? You see, he is saying that, yes, we have to do it to keep the Thunder here. And the Thunder is saying, well, right now we're only talking to Oklahoma City, but if you don't build this arena, then we're going to open it up and talk to Tulsa, and we'll talk to other places about moving there. You know, capitalism is one thing, but when you threaten an entire city's population with the thought of leaving, that's dangerous politics. Worst, the very worst part about all of this, though, is that only 5% of the funding is coming from the billionaire owners of the Thunder. That means that Oklahoma City residents will be paying for this thing for years and years and years to come. It will be, they're calling it, won't raise taxes, but it will continue a penny sales tax forever and ever and ever. We already have among the highest sales tax rates in the country. And do we need a stadium before we can eliminate grocery taxes that would help every single Oklahoman? I'm not sure that we do. Now, if it's voted on and the people decide that, yes, this is what we want, then I'll accept that. But I'm going to be doing so begrudgingly because I know a lot of people that would never be able to afford to go to a Thunder game. The price of a ticket, $20 or more to park, a beer and a hot dog, you're talking about a very expensive evening for two people. And if you have a family, then of course the cost goes up precipitously. I'm all in favor of sports and sports teams working together in a city and in a state. But I believe that there's a much more equitable way to approach this. And if the billionaire owners of the Thunder are kicking in only 5%, well, that seems like a very unfair equation to me because their demands are getting more expensive all the time. We're at a mid-range in terms of the size of Chesapeake Arena. And so our Paycom Center, I guess. And the reason why that's not a bad thing is because we are not a big city. I know that people like to think of Oklahoma as a big league city, but we have a ways to go. And frankly, whether or not we have the Thunder here playing, and you may disagree with me, but I don't see that as a real driving force for other businesses to come here. So with that being said, those are decisions that are being made in back rooms and cloak rooms and Lord only knows where else. But it is troubling to me that we're looking at spending all of this money paid for by the citizens of Oklahoma City, and we'll be paying for it for a long time. So before you rush out and vote to support this endeavor, give it strong consideration and ask if we couldn't better spend that money on helping solve our homeless crisis in Oklahoma City, to see what we can do about making sure that children are fed, to, oh, I don't know, have better health outcomes for women. In Oklahoma, the health outcomes for women are the worst in the nation. We learned this weekend that we are also one of the poorest states in the nation. And those are not bragging rights. That's nothing that a governor or anyone else should be particularly proud of, because we are not taking care of Oklahomans. And I'm not making the same argument that a Trader Green or a Bobo the Clown makes in Congress, because they're saying, well, we need to take care of our people first and forget the Ukraine. I don't believe that for a moment. We have an enormous investment in making sure that the Ukraine remain a democracy, a free and fair democracy. What I'm talking about is the way that we're spending money in this state, that we don't need to be spending that way. Too many lives are being crippled. And speaking of crippling lives and crippling lives, Ryan Walters is back in the national spotlight, never seems to leave, really. He goes to Ross and buys his clothes in the little boys department, I guess, and then feels like he's all ready for prime time. No, he's not ready for prime time, but for whatever reason, the ultra conservative news people, and I'm saying that even beyond faux news, seem to love him. He spoke at yet another Christian conference in D.C. this week. Now, go speak to your heart's content. My question is, are we paying for these trips? Is he getting paid to speak at these conventions of hate groups in many cases? Moms for Liberty is a recognized hate group, an anti-government group, and he cannot seem to embrace them more firmly enough. And yet, we're not paying attention to our schools. Not really. I'm talking about everything is just a clown show with that man. It's just a clown show. He is nothing but performative. And, telling the people in Tulsa, don't test me. Yeah, sit down, little boy, and hush. Because the people in Tulsa have a right to decide things on their own for their own children in their own schools, the same way everyone else in Oklahoma has that same opportunity. Don't get me started on school vouchers, and that voucher scheme will never sit right with me, because our Constitution in the state of Oklahoma requires us to have a strong public school system. It doesn't require us to fund private schools. It doesn't require us to fund religious schools. And yet he wants to bring God back into the schools. Well, you've heard me say before that if your God is so little that you can push him in and out of a school, you don't have much of a God. What he's talking about is performance, the prayer in schools that he is bringing back. The values that he wants taught are the same one as Hillside College. And if you know anything about Hillside, it's a extreme right-wing outfit. We talked about PragerU, and that is a horrible thing. Thankfully, I have not heard of one public school system in the entire state that's planning on taking advantage of PragerU, and I'm so grateful, because it is a horrible look at history. He was on a talk show and he accused the woke liberal Democrats, that's right, of whitewashing our history. No, sir. I am not the one that suggested that we teach that slavery wasn't such a bad thing after all. I was not the one that said, sure, we'll talk about the Tulsa race massacre, but we just can't call it that because, well, we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. What we're saying is we don't care about our kids. We want to have totally uneducated children who are not prepared for when they graduate from high school to do anything positive with their lives. And I don't understand why parents are not just in an uproar. When you look at the people who show up for the Oklahoma State Department of Education board meetings, they're all older, retired people older than me. And they sit there with their professionally painted Go Ryan Walters signs, and he's using each one of those as nothing more than a campaign whistle stop. Do your job. Do your job. And your job is this: to take care of school children so that they learn. And I mean really learn, and learn the truth. The truth is not going to kill a child. It may make them a bit uncomfortable, but you know what? Learning does that sometimes. And isn't that really, we want our kids to be uncomfortable as they remember the past so that they won't create an uncomfortable world going forward. Mitch says, what are people going to realize that they put an enemy of public education in this job? He's a culture warrior looking for higher office. Oh, you could not have said that any better. And speaking of culture warrior, he said that Democrats are doing nothing but training up a new generation of culture warriors. I'm like, what? No, you will always be the king of the culture war, buddy. We're not playing games, and this is not a war. What it is, though, is a battle for our children, their lives, their livelihoods once they go into the world. Yeah, we got to do better, because for us to be in this situation right now when we don't have to be, you see, what happens when people don't turn out to vote is we get a Ryan Walters, or we get a Senator Treat who says, yeah, no, he didn't break any laws as far as I can tell, so we're not going to impeach him. Are you kidding me? Read the state constitution. There is no provision in there that says that someone has to break a law. And I'm sure that more than one legislator was pretty upset when they saw that you can be impeached for continuous drunkenness. But we've got to do something about this man. He needs to be stopped from doing any more harm to our children. And the only way we can guarantee that will happen is when we turn out and vote. Voting is what we have, my friends. It's what we have that can make a difference. Well, I'm saving the good news for last, but first I want to ask this question. Did you happen to watch the Meet the Press interview yesterday morning with the former failed 4-time indicted, 91-time charged president? I didn't watch it because I knew that there would be clips galore, and I wasn't disappointed because I figured that our friends at the Lincoln Project would probably do a highlights reel, and they did not disappoint. Let's take a look at the way that they viewed this interview yesterday morning.
You are facing 4 indictments.
Biden indictments, Biden political indictments. And the election was rigged. There's no question about that. There's so much proof on it. The strategic reserves, which I had a lot to do with filling up for the first time ever, they took these strategic reserves, Jamie Comer, Jim Jordan, who are fantastic people and very legitimate people. Things are not going right now very well for the consumer. Bacon is up 5 times. Food is up horribly. Nancy Pelosi was in charge of security. She turned down 10,000 soldiers. If she didn't turn down the soldiers, you wouldn't have had January 6th. We gave $85 billion worth of equipment to the Taliban. Something's going on, and it's not good for Ukraine because the news is no longer reporting about the war. The Democrats that say after 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, and even after birth, you're allowed to terminate the baby. You say Trump was right about everything.
This buffoon said on television that people in liberal cities are aborting children after birth. No, that's called murder. And that's not something that's legal in any state in the nation. Why are people buying his lies? Why do people continue just to drink the Kool-Aid day after day? You've seen these video clips of people being interviewed at his rallies, and they say, why do you continue to support him? Because you see everything that he's done. Oh, he has done nothing wrong, nothing wrong. It's a phenomena that I've never seen in my lifetime. This makes Jim Jones look like the Easter Bunny. The man is crazy. And to be thinking that he would ever be inside the White House again is more than I can comprehend. So that's why we all have to get behind President Biden. And I need to mention this about the No Labels group. The No Labels group has a label, and it's called Republican Light. It's being funded by enormous dollars of redneck Republicans. Filthy rich people putting their money into this. Why? Because they know that a third-party candidate will never win, but could have devastating effects on the outcome of the 2024 election. We can't afford it. We cannot afford it as a country. We've got enough bad that's going on in this state without positive Democratic leadership in the White House. There's no telling where Oklahoma would be. I mean, we're already on the worst list of everything. Can you imagine if we got no support from the federal government? All right, I said I was saving the best for last tonight. We have so much coming up. This is a busy time of year for us at the Oklahoma Democratic Party, and I'm very excited. I mentioned that that we took the tour in Chicago last week. Well, we also have our own convention coming up in April. That will be the one where we decide who the delegates are that will represent us in Chicago next summer. But way before we get to that, we've got some other things up our sleeves. This Friday, we began a road trip that I'm so excited about. This is our road trip to victory. One of the things that we hear frequently is, gosh, we'd like to see the party more often. So we're answering that call. Most of the stops on our trip are in rural parts of the state because we want to touch people there and let them know that there are other Democrats in your neighborhood, in your community, in your city, your town, your county. And when we work together, we can produce some great things. So we start in Tulsa. We then go to Bartlesville, Stillwater, Ada, Yukon, Lawton, Ardmore, Durant, Muskogee, no, not Muskogee, McAllister. Then on Thursday night, next week, we have cocktails and charcuterie in Tulsa. And then we will wind up the week back in Oklahoma City, where we will be marching with the Oklahoma County Democrats in an incredible parade celebrating Hispanics in Oklahoma. It begins in Lower Scissortail Park and continues to Southwest 25th Street, Commerce Avenue. So that's what's taking us through next week. And I will be reporting live next Monday night from Lawton. We also are, I mentioned cocktails and charcuterie. We are also planning a Dems at the Range event. This is an example. Thank you. And we are in Enid on Saturday. Thank you for that, Nancy. I'm sorry for the slight. But we're planning a Dems at the Range event. This is to demonstrate to people that we are not interested in taking away people's guns. But what it does is cause us to have some common sense conversations about common sense gun laws. This is something that our chair, Alicia Andrews, says at least once a week. Because when you look at the number of mass shootings in this state, and I can tell you it went up by 3 today. Matter of fact, since Alicia did her live this afternoon, we are now at 575 mass shootings in this country for the year. 575. And we are nowhere finished with this year. So it's time for us to talk common sense. And I think that this event will be a fun one, where we'll do some training. We'll talk about the safety of guns, and just make sure people understand that, no, we're not coming for your guns. We're not coming for your bullets, but we do need to have a real conversation about how to keep everyone safe, and while at the same time protecting the Second Amendment. In addition to that, we're beginning something that we're really excited about, Training on the Move, where every month we will be offering trainings. Some of these are geared specifically for candidates. Others are for volunteers. We will be covering everything from VAN to messaging to how to approach and deal with the media. So much good, valuable training coming up, and it's all going to be so very affordable. We're even offering packages if you wanted to take more than one class, but just covering our costs on that, because it's something that people have asked for. And believe me when I tell you that we are listening. We are listening to what people are telling us, what they're asking us, what they say they need. And within our limited resources, we are actually making some things come to life. And that's exciting to me. But first, we've got to raise some more money. And that's something I don't mention on this broadcast very often. But if you are not currently a monthly contributor to the Oklahoma Democratic Party, I hope that you will consider a gift of just $10 a month. If you can do $25 a month, that helps us even more. Because as you know, things are more expensive. It costs more to buy paper and pens and things that are necessary to just run a business. And this is a business. And we do a very good job. And I'm proud of the way that we take care of your money and are good stewards of it, wasting no money in order to provide the best services we can to Democrats in Oklahoma. Well, I have pretty much swung to the moon and back tonight. We've covered a lot of ground here, but I want to let you know how much I appreciate you. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate it when you share this broadcast on your own social media so that more people will be able to hear what we're doing and why we're doing it. This is something that you're passionate about. If you weren't, you wouldn't be tuning in to hear me speak on a Monday evening. It's my passion too. And we have an opportunity now to ignite the passions of other people so that together we truly can deliver an Oklahoma that we can all be proud of, all feel safe in, and somewhere that, well, it'll be good to call it home. Friends, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I wish you a really good week, and I look forward to joining you the same time next Monday evening when I'll be eating barbecue in Lawton. Among the different trips, we have a picnic in the park. We have a fish fry. We have bean and cornbread dinner. We have the barbecue. We have an Italian dinner. So much going on. And if you are anywhere near any of the towns where we'll be stopping, please come on over and say hi and spend some time with us. You can get all of the details at okdemocrats.org/Road to Victory Tour. Have a great week. Please take good care of yourself and know how much I appreciate you and I value you. From all of us at the Oklahoma Democratic Party, I'm Scott J. Hamilton saying thanks again and good night.